Hi, guys. Welcome to our podcast, A Court of Heaven and Hell. I'm Lauren, aka Heaven,
And I'm Ellie. I'm also known as Hel.
and we are a book podcast based on the romantasy novels A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, and Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. This episode, we will be continuing our coverage of House of Flame and Shadow with our future theories, our final thoughts, and we will also be including some listener opinions that we got over off of our Instagram. If you haven't, please check out our last two episodes where we give our initial reactions and discuss the bonus chapters of House of Flame and Shadow. And if you are new to the series or you are wanting to read House of Flame and Shadow for the first time and you need a refresher on the first two Crescent City books, we also have episodes about that over on our channel. Feel free to go check those out if you need any kind of recap to help you get ready for that. And finally, if you are interested in hearing us talk about her other books, please follow us for future episodes where we will be discussing her other novels, starting with Akatar next week. We're really excited
Woo!
about that. This is mine and
I'm
Ellie's
so
favorite
excited.
series of all of them. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
we're super excited to start that coverage.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a content warning. Please see our show notes for content and trigger warnings. And we are also an explicit podcast. We will be cursing. We will be talking about adult themes, okay?
Yeah.
Also want to give a spoiler warning, really big spoiler warning for every single Sarah J. Maas book. If you have not read all her books, please save this and come back when you finish them. I don't want anything to be spoiled for you. But yeah. So like Lauren was saying, we have two other episodes right now that covers House of Flame and Shadow. This one is going to be a little bit more of our theories. We have had a little bit more time to kind of digest the book. So we do have some thoughts. So one thing about this book that I have definitely noticed is it gave us some answers, but it left a lot of more questions that we had coming into this book.
For
Like
sure.
it didn't really, yeah, it didn't really give us as much answers as I think a lot of us would have liked, but hopefully one day we'll get some answers. And so since we have a lot more questions, that also leads to more theories. So Lauren, let's go ahead and start off with this question. Do you think anyone else has traveled between the worlds after Thea and before Bryce did?
Okay. All right. So this is a fun question. I don't know 100% sure, like obviously, but I do think that at some point it's definitely possible that somebody else other than these two people traveled between the worlds. There's just too many questions. What is Fury? Did she come over with the people that came over? Because from what I understood in the explanation that Celine gives, is that the people that came over were people that were Thea, not sympathizers, but like people that agreed with what Thea wanted to do and they followed her. Was Fury's family part of that group of people? What is she? Is it possible that she's something else entirely that came over at a separate time? We do know that there's the Northern Rift and the Southern Rift. So it just makes me question, was there another crossing into Midgard at some point of some people that maybe were not exactly who we're thinking of when we are describing Celine's journey, or not Celine, but Thea's journey over from Prithian originally. Obviously, it was really interesting learning that Thea wasn't this like great person and that she had a lot of issues, and the Asteri also kind of came from Prithian as the Daglin. All of this was just really interesting to learn, and it just kind of made me have that question of like, I wonder if there was another, kind of crossing that we just haven't heard about yet. Not necessarily a crossing, but just like other groups of people traveling over. So yeah.
I mean, I will say there has to have been because that's how the shifters came over to Midgard. But we just don't know how.
Right.
Like we don't have an explanation for that. But I will say one thing that I did notice when because I literally just got to my reread where Celine is explaining all of this. And she says, or maybe it was the Asteri that was in the prison. One of them says to Bryce, Ness, and Asriel that people who walk between worlds are called world walkers. There's like a literal term for it. And
Mm.
I'm like, wow, Maeve was called a world walker.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm like, does this kind of opens up like a little bit of a theory that I've been thinking of. I'm like, so is Maeve an Asteri then? Is Fog an Asteri? Like it just it gives me questions that I'm like, okay. And I will say when we first see Asteri in the prison, wasn't her name like what was her name? Was it Vesperus or what
I
was
believe
it?
it's Vesperus.
Remember?
Yeah.
Vesperus. Okay, so when we meet Vesperus in the prison, the way she was described, I was like, before we knew her name, I was like, is this Maeve?
Yeah, no, I literally had that thought go through my head too. I think I text you in the group chat or whatever, but I was
And
like, is this Maeve? Like
yeah,
she's
well,
described very
I was like,
similarly, but I feel like her eyes were
hmm.
a different color is what gave me like the
So
giveaway.
yeah, I think the Asteria, she had blue
Mhm.
eyes. I think Maeve had violet, but
Yeah.
I also was like, I thought it was Maeve because she was described as coming out of the casket thing like a spider. And
Mhm.
I'm like, we know that spiders was Maeve's thing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
does this I don't know what it means, but I feel like if there's something that we obviously don't know about how the Throne of Glass world got to Midgard, but we do know that they were somehow also tricked by
Mhm.
Rigulus. And I'm like, but how? If that I like we don't
I know. I
I
also
don't
have so many
know.
questions now about the timeline and exactly what
Me
is going
too.
on
That's what
because apparently Sarah J. Maas has said that they're all happening like kind of at the same time. And so I haven't seen that interview, but I've had a lot of people comment on our stuff saying that that is, what's been said. And so I'm just very curious about how that all works. Like if Throne of Glass is happening at a similar time in a different world. Also, there's just questions about how, if that's the case, I saw somebody bring up how would one of Brandon's descendants gotten over to because
yeah.
the gap between time between Aelin and Brandon isn't as big as the gap of time between the cross or the like Thea and Bryce. And so I am very curious about that. Like, does time work differently? Are years different times? I don't know. I have a lot of questions about that. And of course, so much of this conversation is probably going to be questions that open up to more questions. But yeah, that's definitely something where, we will be coming back to CC3 again eventually when we get to our actual CC3 breakdown because a lot of what we've been doing has just been getting prepared for the House of Flame and Shadow release. So I do feel we will be revisiting these books at some point, and maybe when that happens, it'll be a little bit more fleshed out after we go through all the other
Yeah.
series and stuff. Because I feel even though I have started rereading House of Flame and Shadow, obviously it's going to take me a little bit of time, and I just feel like a lot of things in my head. I have a lot more questions even than I did when I went into the book. So,
Yeah, well, because we everything that we thought was gonna happen almost didn't. Like, so it's kind of we're having to like rethink about everything.
yeah.
We were right about some things, but there was just a lot of things that I just really didn't see happening that happened. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Yeah, a
okay.
lot of
So
took a turn there. Also, there's definitely theories I think that we talked about that are still possible for future books going forward, especially with Akatar being involved. But yeah, and Throne of Glass. But it definitely just a lot of stuff was like, okay, so that didn't happen, or this isn't what I thought it was. Like, and I am very curious about how that's going to unfold again because I do think personally, I do think there will be another crossover and that these characters will all kind of meet again. So definitely we'll be diving into some more of those theories as I do my reread, as I reread all of her series and kind of reposition my thoughts and, come up with new theories and stuff. So definitely we'll be touching on that again. But yeah, I guess next topic would be that personally, I do think that Rhysand knew about the Starborn Fae connection. I kind of said that in our theories video that I thought that Rhysand knew a lot more about what was going on just based on some of the things that were said in Silver Flames and some of the things that the way he greeted Bryce when she first got over there, almost like he knew who she was already. He called her by name, even though they were having this language barrier thing. And I don't know, it just really kind of put me in the position of like, does Ryzen like already know what's going on here? Does he know more about this than he has, told anybody? And I kind of think that that was confirmed in this book with the whole Celine dialogue, giving us the fact that Celine did marry into the Night Court after she came back to Prithian, and she did have children with the Lord or the High Lord of the Night Court, and that the secret of her and her lineage has been passed down through the male line in the Night Court. So I am very curious to know, or to see if we find out more about the fact that Rhysand really did know what was going on during this whole time. He was kind of expecting this. And I think that that also has a lot of, not even impact, but definitely makes me question to the way that he acted in the bonus chapter. Because it's like, if he did know, I think he did, I don't know. Did he just think that she wouldn't be that reckless to come back? I don't know. It's just his behavior is very interesting to me right now.
It's been weird.
Yeah.
It's been
He
weird.
knows some shit.
I just think that he definitely has some
Yeah.
secrets. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he knew about this. I feel like he knows a lot more than he lets anyone know, including Feyre. I really think that he keeps a lot of the shit to himself.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of family secrets that he doesn't share, which this could potentially be one of them, since Celine was saying, I told my son to pass this down with his sons. And of course, it was mentioned someone might have stopped passing that legend down, but that's not like completely confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Azriel was like, there's no way that Rhysand knows about this. He was very confident about it, but he wouldn't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's confirmed, I guess, that he doesn't know, because that's just Azriel kind of placing his bets that Rhysand wouldn't keep this from them.
Yeah, I almost feel that to me is almost like foreshadowing that he did know, because it's Azriel's like, there's no way Rhys knew about that. And I'm like, yo, bro, you don't know him quite as well as you think you do. Rhys, like,
Exactly.
Rhys will do a lot to protect secrets, to protect his court, to do what he thinks is in the best interest, which isn't, as we know, when people do what they think is the best for other people, it doesn't always end up working out that. And so I just kind of took that as Azriel's adamancy that Rhys wouldn't have done that. It kind of gave me pause to be like, oh no, maybe he would have. Maybe you don't know Rhysand as well as you think you do. Maybe nobody really does. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm just very curious to see about where that goes. If we're gonna get, I don't necessarily see a villain arc for Rhys, but well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily be mad at it. But then second of all, I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily see a villain arc for him, but I think we are going to find out that he has been hosting a lot of secrets, and that this man is, I don't know, that just basically, I keep saying that he knows more than he is letting on, or that he has his own theories that are way further than, what our brains are thinking, and that I don't really know what that means in the grand scheme of things. You know what, like, I don't know. I don't know what it's all going to amount to, or what his end goal is, but I definitely think there's a possibility that we're going to find out some shit about Rice going forward. So definitely interested to see where that goes.
I just thought of something that actually gives more, I guess, fuel to this. He literally has to know about stuff, because he literally saved Aelin when she was falling.
Yeah.
He gave her that kind of like push. And I'm like, okay, so like he definitely knows there's different worlds, including Aelin's world. He knows that. And I kind of wish that we got like him and Farrah's POV, because Farrah was there when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, he has to know, like, how did he know to just kind of be at that spot at the right time? I don't know, dude. I have so
Why
many
were they just standing on the mountain?
So many questions.
He specifically let out a burst of his power, so he knew what was going down. Is his intention? I don't know. I don't know. but I'm curious about it.
I need answers, Sarah. I need
Yes,
answers.
these are
Okay.
some of the open-ended, things that I'm just kind of like, where the hell is this going? But yeah, so definitely keeping my eye on Reset.
Mhm.
Definitely keeping my eye on Rise.
Me too. Okay, so do you think that there are any other ACOTAR characters that are related to Bryce through the Starborn line, or possibly like her connection, I guess, to the Autumn Court?
Yeah, straight up, I think we're going to find out that obvious. Well, I think it's kind of obvious at this point that she's related to the people in the Autumn Court, like over here. And we got that from Celine when she was talking about how when Thea was making the journey into the other world, she needed other people that would be like in support of her. So they went to the Southern courts, and obviously they don't say which court they went to, but they describe a bunch of autumn court looking people, there
Mhm.
when she made the journey over. And then also we know that Bryce is known as the literal heir of the autumn court, not necessarily even the heir of the Starborn Fae. She is the heir of the Starborn Fae, but her father's title was the autumn court. We know that they have the red hair. We know that they have the features and the name of the autumn court. So I do think that we're going to find out just straight up that she's related to the people in Lucian, Baron, Eris. She's related to all of them, which is very interesting because their house is also one of the only houses that we have their last name. And it doesn't pop up at all in Crescent City, but I am very curious because I think it's just kind of just straight up. She has to be related to them, which is so interesting because it's just this book. I'm like, so everybody's related to everybody, dude. Cormac is related
Literally.
to Asriel. Asriel's related to Reese. Reese is related to Bryce. Bryce is related to the Autumn, all the Autumn Court boys. It's just like my head spins just thinking about it. So literally just all these Fae are just related to each other.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even know what to think about this question. I just feel just cannot think that deeply right now, I guess, about it. I think I'll be able to come up with a lot more to like of an answer to this question once I do my reread,
Mhm.
because I'm excited to reread Akatar and kind of have a little bit more of kind of just knowing what happened in House of Flame and Shadow. I will know things to look out for more. I'm hoping there was some Easter eggs that like we're gonna discover that we missed that now makes sense or
Yeah.
something. That's gonna be fun. I love when that happens, but yeah, I really don't have anything to add.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's just a question that came across my mind. Does that like this whole obviously it's all but confirmed in my opinion that the Southern court she was talking about was the Autumn court. And it kind of makes sense because those bastards are still the court that's causing the most trouble in modern day times. Baron is the one giving Reese and the Night Court the most trouble. We know that all of the seasonal courts are kind of not at odds, but they tend to be more of a group versus the solar courts. And so it is just really interesting to see how some of that history is still kind of affecting what's going on in Prithian right now. So definitely curious to see where that goes. And then also the kind of idea I was saying about everybody being related comes into play kind of with my next question, which is who do we think that the twins' father is? I don't know if I have a solid theory on this, but I have some ideas and questions. And I kind of have a little theory, but it's kind of a crack theory.
So you're talking about Lydia's twins,
Yeah.
right?
Is there? Well, yeah, I guess
Okay.
the Daymati twins, but no, I'm talking about Lydia's twins.
Yeah, I don't okay, so oh my gosh. So all we know is that okay, so we know that Lydia is a descendant of Brandon's line. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so there has to be a crossover with her at some point. And then we also know that there was her dad's a piece of shit
Mm-hmm.
and made her go to this rite. She had to produce an heir, which she did, but we don't know the dad. And I really honestly don't really know.
If I'm
I
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have a feeling, not that I have a feeling, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's someone that we haven't met yet, or it's just kind of not super important to the storyline. but maybe it'll be a reveal later.
Yeah.
But what was your theory?
So I do think that Lydia's dad was a piece of shit, but I actually don't quite remember if he forced her to participate in the rite or if she volunteered. If I remember correctly, she volunteered to do it. And so I think that this is kind of a tradition that, you know, is something that takes place in their family, and she was kind of willing to do it in the name of the family, not thinking that, you know, necessarily anything would come of it. But the reason that I say it's kind of a crack theory is because, okay, this all ties into my original theory that the people in Prithian are descended from the people from Throne of Glass or whatever. But I guess even so, if that's not the case, if just the people from Prithian are, we know that they are partially the people from Midgard or whatever. I guess it has to. This is such a complicated theory. Sorry. I guess it does matter that they would be that some people from Throne of Glass would have come over too, because we know that Lydia's lineage comes from the Throne of Glass world. So, or Aurelia or
Mhm.
whatever. So, if this right that she's talking about is Kalanmai, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that Tamlin is the twins' father, because I do kind of lean towards their father being somebody with dark hair, because why does one of the twins have dark hair while one of them is blonde? They're described very much opposites, kind of. But that could also come from somebody further back in the lineage, like Lysandra or somebody like that. But anyways, if the traditions are the same, I guess there's kind of two theories. So it's either that because they came from the Prithian Fae, that they are literally just performing the same kind of ceremony, Kalanmai, and we maybe don't know the dad, and it just is a ritual that happens. Or what if they talk about how the night of Kalanmai is very magic centered and Fire Night is this magical experience? What if somehow the cave is a portal, or if, you know, everybody seems to think that the pool of starlight on Tamlin's like in Tamlin's court is a possible portal into the other world? What if on this one night the magic comes into play and people are able to travel between the worlds, and that has something to do with it? I feel Lydia would have mentioned
Wait,
that, but I don't know why this is such a crack theory in my head, where I'm just like, is it possible that like it's through some magical way she literally, what if it was Tamlin?
I would fucking die if it was Tamlin. But okay, really quick to add to that, actually, I just thought of this. This is something I picked up on my reread of Flame and Shadow. There was a passage when Nesta and Azriel and Bryce are walking below the prison or
Mhm.
whatever, and Azriel was telling Bryce something along the lines of like, "Oh, sometimes caves and Prithian lead to different places." What does that
What
mean?
does
What does
mean?
that mean? So I would fucking die if Tamlin's the dad. But I will say, isn't Calamine a rite where all the High Lords have to find a mate, or is it just
I'm
Springcourt?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just Springcourt. It's not reason them don't participate in it. I could 100% be wrong. It could just be that they've done away with that tradition, but I don't remember it being a thing for that specifically being a thing for all the
Okay,
courts.
wait. I just Googled it because I don't remember super well
No, you're
either.
good.
So it's the location is at the Spring Court. By the way, I'm using Akatar Wiki. Okay. It says each High Lord must perform the Great Rite, which consists in allowing powerful magic to enter the bodies and seize control of them, causing the High Lord to attempt to find the maiden and have sex with her to release magic that will spread through the lands and allow crops to grow until the next Calamine. In the Spring Court, the Great Rite is performed in a sacred cave big enough to accommodate hundreds of Fae.
A sacred cave.
So is and caves lead to other places apparently. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's a super crack theory. It's a possibility.
Right. It's my
You
head.
wouldn't
Go ahead.
I would fucking die. Oh my god, I would die if Tamlin is their fucking
But also,
dad.
I'm kind of a little thrown by that whole other night High Lords are involved because I feel nobody's ever talked about Tarquin doing this right. No one's ever talked about Baron doing this right. No one's ever mentioned, Callias doing the right. Like these people are like, why is this just
I'm wondering if maybe, like, the Spring Court is the only one that participates. One second. I'm doing a little bit more research.
okay?
Okay. So someone asked the same question on Reddit, and this person under the usernames Sinistral Leanings replied saying basically that all of the courts have a great right, but Calamine is the Spring Court's
Hmm.
ritual, where the other courts could have a great right under a different name, and it's not, I guess, the same. It's not the same ritual.
Right,
So, okay, I guess it's not every single High Lord, but
right,
Calamine is just for the Spring Court.
right,
Why was that so difficult? Okay, we're gonna have an answer to this literally next week when we do our
right. Oh,
when we do our Akasar episode, because we're
yeah.
gonna reread that whole like Calamine section. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think I could see that
Right?
happening.
Because if Callan Mai is specifically the sex right, which is kind of what I
Mhm.
thought, Tamlin is the only one who does that specific thing. How is that ritual not the same ritual that Lydia is talking about? And we know that the stag is something that comes over specifically when it comes to Tamlin mentioned, and that also has to do with the Aelin, Stag King shit. So I don't know. It's very complicated, but
Okay, if he's done this right before, you would think he has other, like, children throughout the world. Oh my gosh.
well, a lot of
Does that give
people
this
a lot of people think that the Gwen situation, like Gwen might be like his daughter too. I don't know. It gets so complicated.
I know, that's what I was just thinking. I don't know either, but that is something that wasn't revealed, and it bothered me.
Yeah, it's going to be I mean, obviously I think that there's definitely possibility for these things to be revealed again, but yeah, that's very interesting. I'm curious to see where that is going with the whole idea of that being a possibility. And just like the fact that it's literally called the magical night, we know that caves lead other places. We know that like I said, it kind of ties into that whole, do we think anybody else has traveled between worlds? I kind of think it's possible. I don't know. Who's to say what the
Mhm.
ritual entails? Who's to say that Lydia wasn't blindfolded and put in this cave and then who knows what happened? But I'm just saying, like, it's on my mind. It's in my list of possibilities. I did, because when I first read that part in the book, I was like, is Tamlin the dad? And then I was like, no, how would she get to Prithian? How would,
Yeah.
he get over there? But then I was, what if this is really a thing and these caves are portals, and or this pool of starlight in the spring court acts as a portal?
Yeah, I'm interested to know more about the Suns and how their powers are gonna
Oh
manifest,
yeah, they're
'cause I
definitely.
feel like that's gonna be pretty telling.
That being said, when it comes to who the twins' father is, and is it possibly somebody from Prithian, do we also think that I have already discussed how this theory, it just doesn't make sense to me. But a lot of people think that Rune's mom might possibly be Zan's lost sister, and that's why Rune and Rhysand look so much alike. But also, my question is, why was this not a bigger part of this book? Why did nobody mention it? Ember literally went and spent time with him. Randall bonded with him. Nobody else mentioned the fact that this man looks just like Rune. It was like not brought up again.
This this bothered me so much, and one of the criticisms that I have, because it feels such a plot hole to me. I'm just like, "Wait, so you're telling me that Bryce didn't even tell Rune, 'Hey, I met a guy that looks exactly like you.' Isn't that crazy?" Like,
Nobody mentioned it on either side. Like you said, when Ember, who was this child's stepmother for years, went over and saw
mhm.
him, her first reaction wasn't, holy shit, he looks like Rune, like yours was. Or vice versa. When Bryce got back to Midgard, she wasn't, oh, by the way, I got taken captive by this man who looks exactly like you. And
I
when Rune took the serum, he ended up getting his powers like very similar to Reese's powers. It's like, man, Like, this is just this
I
unopened or this open-ended, unanswered question.
Yeah, that's gonna bother me if it's never mentioned again. But so the only thing I can think of that would kind of maybe explain why Rune and Rysand look alike. It doesn't explain why no one commented on it because that doesn't make sense to me. But I'm like, okay, so when we meet Celine, Asriel's like, she looks just like Rysand's sister. And I'm like, so does this kind of try to explain that? So if Rysand's sister looks exactly like Celine and Rysand looks exactly like Rune, and we know that they're all related, does that just mean that this family just all fucking looks identical? That sounds crazy though.
Yeah,
Like why would that
yeah.
that's the only thing I can think of that kind of explains it, but why would everyone look almost identical through that many years? That doesn't make sense to me.
Especially because the line that Rune descended from is Helena's line, not Celine's line. So we know that Celine
Right,
that
that's true.
Rhysand descended from Celine technically, and then Helena or Helena, is the ancestor of Rune and Bryce. I will say, like, I think we have said it. I was definitely left with a lot of questions after this book, like to a lot of theories, and I just like don't know if we even got answers to them or if the answers are coming. But yeah, this is definitely a big hole, a big thing that I need answers to in the next ACOTAR book because I cannot wait 4 books for Crescent City 4 to get some sort of answer to it. I need to know what the heck is going on there. Did Helena look just like Celine? Were they like identical? That wasn't brought up, but is that why their descendants look like them? I don't know. Yeah, big question mark there.
Dude, really quick, I thought of something that is it's kind of funny, and if you know, you know. But so I my mind cannot think of Celine as having black hair and like violet eyes. I cannot picture her like this because of Baldur's Gate.
Oh,
There's this goddess in Baldur's Gate, and her name is Saloon. And she has like white hair. She is like the moon goddess. And every time I think of Celine, I think of Saloon, and I think of this girl with white hair. It looks nothing like the actual character. So I always forget that Celine in this book is supposed to look like that.
got it.
But anyway, if you're deep into Baldur's Gate, you probably know what I mean. But I just cannot. Like my brain just is just like,
That's
no.
funny. That's funny. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. I'm very curious. I'm very interested to see where the everybody looking the same to the point where Asriel pointed it out and then never brought it up again.
Yeah.
Granted, we don't know what
Like you would
conversations were
think
had at the night court after Nesta and Az got back, but it's just kind of like,
you think that that would be highlighted though in this book. It wouldn't be an off-screen or off-page scene. It's like you think that we would get again Azrael being like, "Oh my gosh, Rysand, I saw this girl named Celine and she looks exactly like her sister." I feel like that's something that we should see if it
yeah,
happens.
I agree with that.
But
Maybe we'll
I don't
get
know.
some
Maybe
sort of cut in the next ACOTAR book. I don't know, but
it's gonna be like a bonus chapter one day. Watch.
yeah, no, seriously. I kind of hope so. I just need answers. I don't care how I get them. Give them to me. Like, and I feel like enough
Seriously.
people want to know about that. So hopefully that's one that will get answered sometime in the future. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about all the freaking lines being connected and all the worlds and the like what happened and the freaking I don't even know how the people got from the different places to Midgard. Obviously, that brings into kind of question. So, okay. So we know that Lydia is a descendant of Aelin's line. Not necessarily, well, I think Aelin, but Brannon specifically. Because we know that Brannon basically created these fire wielding stags for his protection, and that passed down to become Lydia's line. It seems to a lot of people, this is not only my theory, it's, definitely a lot of people are thinking that the ruby ring that Lydia gave her sons during this book is possibly the same ring that Aelin and Rowan found when they were in the private cove, and then they gave to each other as wedding. Well, Aelin gave to Rowan as a wedding ring. So we know that Aelin got the emerald and Rowan got the ruby. Is this ring that she gives her sons, is that the same ring from Aurelia? And if so, how did it get there? How did, this.
I think it has to be the ring because I don't know why Sarah J. Maas would not make it the ring if she confirmed that Lydia is from that line and she just happens to have a wedding ring that is identical to Rowan's. Like that would be so weird if she was just like, no, it's not actually the same ring. Like, it has to be. But I don't know how we get to Midgard because then that also puts in more questions about the timeline.
Exactly.
There's so many questions about the timeline. And like, I will say, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, that, I mean, I'm thinking so hard. I'm like rubbing my chin, but it's if time does move differently or work differently and the Sarah J. Maasverse, I feel like it would make a lot of sense. And I'm pretty sure time does work differently in this because why else would there be the 26th string on the harp that is literally time?
Mhm.
And there's a planet that's time.
Right.
So time has to be some type of weird thing. And there, again, I said this, I think, our last episode. Meryl from Silver Flames was studying how she thinks worlds can overlap on themselves. And I'm like, okay, so that kind of would mean that time can overlap at the same time too. But it gets it's very complicated. Time traveling is kind of whatever the author wants to do. They can make up kind of whatever they want with it. There's not really like a blueprint of time traveling. So
Yeah.
it's so confusing. And it does that. The ring, if it is Rowan's, does kind of make me question so much about the time. Because I'm like, but I thought it was happening at the same time, but I'm like, maybe it's not. I don't know. There's so much to think about.
I always thought that the times were different, but it's just like been pointed out by a lot of people that it supposedly they're supposed to be happening at similar times. And I'm just like, that just does not make sense to me if some of these things are true, because it's like, if I'm not mistaken, Brannon, it doesn't even the Brannon part doesn't even matter. That part is a question in and of itself. Like, but the how did Rowan's wedding ring, is he not wearing it if they're happening at the same time? Like, at what point did he pass it on to a child who then came over in the crossing to Prithian, and then 15,000 years later had passed on to their descendant who then gave it to her children? It just doesn't make sense if that is the case. But like you said, I also don't understand why this random ring that has nothing to do with the other ruby ring we know in the series that would be from that line. What, like, I don't know. It's a
You know, actually, I kind of take back what I said earlier about like why would Sarah J. Maas add that in if it's not the same ring? Maybe she's doing that just to make us like sweat. Like
true. Yeah, maybe she was like,
maybe she's probably like, this is gonna make them go crazy. Like I'm just gonna throw that in
yeah,
and we're gonna see what
yes,
happens. I mean, it could just kind of be almost like I don't know if
like,
there's a word for it, but kind of almost like a clickbait of books.
yeah, I never said it was the same ring. I never did. The way that she was talking about another series that she plans on revisiting after she's done with the next ACOTAR book and other possible crossovers, she was like, I'm not going to say what I'm talking about, but it's like, there's only 3 series. We know which one you're talking about. You're talking about Throne of Glass. It has to be. So
It has
I'm
to be.
thinking that this is we're I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get a crossover in the way that we did in this, which I kind of hope ends up being a little bit bigger than this crossover was. Not because
Me too.
I was fine with this not being an ACOTAR book. I love Crescent City. I wanted it to focus on the Crescent City characters, but I did kind of think that there would be a little bit more of the ACOTAR world coming into the Crescent City world as well, versus just her going over there and leaving things over there. So I do kind of hope that if there is another crossover with Throne of Glass, that somehow either a couple of those characters come over or they actually go over there and spend some time over there and, like, I don't know, learn some shit. But yeah, definitely it makes me very curious about what's coming in the idea of like either I doubt it will be another Throne of Glass book, but I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out for like another Throne of Glass type crossover or just novella. So, that being said, I also have just a little additive of what the whole word situation was. It was such a brief conversation that happened between the Underking and Ethan, but he literally tells us that word, well, okay, first of all, that Erd, the goddess Erd, is the same as Word, who is not actually a god or even a character in the Throne of Glass book, but we know is heavily mentioned through the word stones and the word gates and the other things. He specifically says that she's not a goddess, that she was a governing force basically of multiple planets or multiple worlds, and at the beginning of time, she ruled all of them, but not as a god, kind of as a king, or you said a govern, or like I said, I guess, a governing force. So very curious to see about that, what that means when he said that she was like a governing force of these worlds, which was the worlds, was that literally Aurelia, Prithian? Well, I guess it couldn't be Midgard. It's the way that so many of these questions just have me like, I don't even know where this is going. But yeah, I definitely just it was very brief, but it was mentioned. And then also the idea of what is the Underking, because we know that he was from the planet of what I'm assuming was Aurelia, but I'm not 100% sure since we know Word governed multiple worlds. But yeah, what exactly was the Underking? And was he one of these death gods, like the Bone Carver, like Koshé, Bryaxis, all of these different things that we know? Because I don't know. Was he a Vogue? I'm leaning less towards him being a Vogue because at this point, I'm kind of thinking the Asteri are a version of the Vogue, which kind of honestly disappoints me and I don't love that much, but it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious because I feel like those were two questions that got opened that never really got resolved. And it was such a quick part in the book that I feel like that was going to be left open to possibly what this untitled, well, we know it's Twilight of the Gods, but like what for virtually untitled fourth project that Sarah is supposed to be working on. Does it have something to do with that? Will it tie into that when they're saying Twilight of the Gods? Is it all of these gods? Is it the death gods? Is it the Aurelia gods? Is there more people involved, including Word? I'm very curious about where we're going with that. So I thought I'd mention it just because even though it was such a brief portion of the book, it was in there. So I feel like it matters.
I don't have any opinions right now of what the Underking is, but I will say that his death was so easy. That was like he died in like a page. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought it was gonna be harder to kill him, but
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that he was this like big bad that Hunt and Bryce and everybody had to run from in the second book, and then he just got
hmm.
frozen and died in this book. But the only thing I can think of is that at that point in the story, they hadn't unlocked their full power, and we know that whatever he was,
Yeah, that's
it
true.
ran from the Fae in Aurelia in that world. I'm assuming it's Aurelia, but it ran from the Fae in that world because of how powerful they were. So I don't know. Yeah,
Mm.
it I don't know. I didn't love that it happened in one page, but it doesn't necessarily not make sense to me if that makes sense.
I wouldn't think he's a Vogue then if he's able to die like that
Yeah,
easily.
that's I don't think he's evolved. I think he's more a death god or something. But even then, it seems I don't know. Nesta was able to kill a death god, but she had to have a maid item.
That one I like really have no opinion of right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure I will later, but you know what? I'm gonna wake up at 2 a.m. one day and be like,
and be like,
I have it. I'm still processing what happened in Flame and Shadow. So, yeah, it was a really long book and like so much happens, and yet at the same time, not a lot of stuff happens. It's so weird. It's
yeah.
so weird. So,
I think
yeah.
a lot happens. It's just not what any of us anticipated happening. And so people were kind of just not. ready for it or not understanding a lot of it. I got most of it. I just felt like we were left with a lot of questions, a lot more questions than I even had going into it. And so I'm just like, what the hell does this
Mhm.
mean? What does this mean going forward? What, and a lot of the reveals, like I
Yeah.
said, were not what I thought they were going to be. Jezebel,
I really wouldn't have ever I never would have guessed that she was a
she was a
priestess
human.
from Parthos. I've
Yeah,
never
she was
known
a
that.
literal human who got cursed by Apollyon because he was like, you're lying to me. These books have powers that you're not telling me about on some real crack theory shit. And he cursed her to walk time or whatever. I'm just like, she's just a regular human. And then I guess she was chilling with the witches for a while, which was, interesting. And she called herself a sorceress. But yeah, that was quite the reveal, including the fact that she didn't look anything like how we've been having her portrayed to look. And so that was really interesting. But do I kind of question, which is just so, because all of these things that I have questions about are all affected by the timeline, because I'm like, does the Library of
Yeah.
Porthos have anything to do with the Torah Sesame? Because we know that the people studying there are called priestesses. We know that they have the
Mhm.
library of books, that lots of protection. Do these two things have anything to do with each other? Are they tied together? We know that there's kind of two kinds of witches really in Throne of Glass. You have the Croaken witches and the yellow legs and the black beaks that are different type of witch, and then you have the healing witches, which was more like Urine in
Mhm.
them. And so it just brings into question for me a lot of what's going on there. Is there any tie-ins with that kind of healing magic and what they were protecting at the Torah Sesame? Does that have anything to do with the Library of Porthos? It might not, but it's just interesting to me that they were called priestesses there as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about every library
Yeah,
that's in this book, and I need answers to them because I feel they all somehow connect in a way, especially Parthos and the Torre Chesme, like that. It just makes sense. And they all are kind of like associated with cats. So I'm like, okay. And they're all associated with like women. There's so many secrets in them.
yeah,
And I don't know.
yeah.
I'm like, what does this mean? I know it means something.
100%. I'm almost willing to bet money that the Torah Sesame has something to do with the library beneath the House of Wind. It's just that this was the first time
Yeah.
that a library not the first time that a library, because we know that we found out about the Library of Porthos in the first book, but this is the first time where we get a little bit more information and finding out that, Jezebel was there and that they were called priestesses and all of that. I'm like, it's just more tie-ins to the House of Wind, which I believe has to do with the Torah Sesame in the first place. Like you said, cat-like figures there, the Bass cats from the Torah
Hmm.
Sesame. And then also, I don't know if I talked about this in a previous video, but we did mention it in a TikTok, but about how Nesta specifically refers to level of the House of Wind library as a womb, and we know that the womb is literally the dark place where the healing springs are in the Torah Sesame in Throne of Glass. So I definitely think that it would be kind of strange if this was just some big coincidence and it didn't all have to do with each other. So definitely interested to see like kind of how that ties in and where that's going, and if maybe Apollyon wasn't as crazy as he seemed. Maybe there is some power in those books. There's some secrets that were being hidden there that Jezebel was, willing to sacrifice her mortal life for. So definitely interested to see
Hey,
where that goes.
there's always power in books. Sorry, that was so cheesy.
It was a little cheesy, but
you
it's okay.
know,
I'm here for it. There's stuff to be learned from any kind of book, like 100%, whether it's vocabulary, whether it's literal like emotion handling, how, you relate to a character and, just feeling other people are going through the same struggles or maybe understand the struggles that you've gone through. I definitely think that there is power in all books. So I don't think it matters what kind of books you read, but yeah, read. if you're here, you probably already do read, but I highly
Yes, I
but I highly suggest it. It's one of my
Can you
favorite
imagine
pastimes.
if anyone's listening to us and they're not reading these books?
They're
Hi.
just here for us, and we're so thankful for it.
Okay, so we know that there's going to be a fourth Crescent City book. We're assuming this is not confirmed yet. We're assuming it's going to be House of Many Waters since there's four houses, there's going to be four books. That's the only house that hasn't a book. And it also kind of does tie in with the ending of Crescent City 3 cuz Tharian doesn't really get his story finished at all. It kind of opens up even more. So, do you have any thoughts about what you think might be going on or kind of what the story of Crescent City 4 is going to be about?
Well, okay. So I do think it will be like the other Crescent cities where we are going to get multiple points of view and it will be about multiple people. But I do think that House of Many Waters obviously is the name. It's going to have some sort of big role and that Therian will play a big role. I will say that not every book is literally about each of the houses. So I don't know how much I like read into that. Yes, House of Earth and Blood is about Bryce and her story, but really all of the first three books are. And, she's not part of every single house. So I don't like, obviously, there's a part that gets mentioned about each of these houses and different things that come into play, but I don't necessarily think that the book will be like solely focused on Therian, kind of, thank God. I do think he will play a big
I
part
agree.
though. I do think he'll play a big
Mhm.
part. I think that, I hope that he takes out the Viper Queen. Honestly, we got to see Sabine taken out. We got to see the Under King taken out. We got to see a lot of the, big bads, Einer, Morven, all of them taken out. What I need to see now is kind of the Ocean Queen taken out. I don't know because the Ocean Queen and the River Queen are kind of like the biggest questions for me. Are they evil? Are they not evil? They're kind of
Yeah.
dicks, but they're also kind of helping people in a way. The River Queen kind of changed my opinion of her at the end when she obviously you shouldn't have been trying to marry your daughter off to Therian in the first place because you could have seen that he was not interested in her. I don't know why it took this act of defiance for you to realize that, but okay, but she at least was cool towards the end. But yeah, definitely the Ocean Queen on one hand is doing all of this to help the rebels and, putting herself in a situation where she could be kind of in trouble to help out. But then on the other hand, she's literally basically holding Lydia hostage by using her children against her and manipulating her when she's kind of a bitch. And so it's just like, I don't know, but definitely would like to see the Viper Queen gone. Definitely would like to see kind of the Ocean Queen and the River Queen, maybe if they're not gone, just not be in the positions of power that they are in. Would love to get an actual story on Ariadne, what's going on with her. Her character development has been horrible in my opinion. I thought I was going to really love her at first when she first came into the series, and she has just ended up being not somebody that I like at all. And yeah, I
Yeah. Okay, my thing is like, what we better get more of this near air because why the fuck was she brought back just to be turned into a freaking
yeah.
reaper? And I'm like, you know what? It does make me think, okay, well, now, like, Hypaxia is head of the Reapers at this point since the Under King's dead, and now she's the head of House and Flame and Shadow. And is something going to happen with that? Because what was the whole point of bringing her back if she's going to just kind of turn into this not like kind of a shitty person? I don't know. She kind of
She
sucked a little
she
bit.
she really did. There were so many people that
I
I
don't know
wanted to like
either.
that just ended up sucking.
Me too. I was so excited about Ariadne. I'm like, oh my gosh, a dragon. That's so cool. That's going to be so fun to read about. And I was like, oh. And I'm also like, who bought her from the Viper Queen? Because the Viper Queen was like, oh, it was a deal that satisfied all parties. And at first I was like, oh, is it the astronomer? Did he buy her back somehow? Or was it the Under King? But they both died. So I'm like,
Well, it
who it,
go
it
ahead.
it doesn't make any sense because it's like only person I could think of is the Viper Queen, but why would the Viper Queen say I don't even know.
Well, we know she's a liar. So what if the Viper Queen, and we know she's manipulative, right? We know that
Okay.
Ariadne could not use her full powers because she was still owned by the astronomer. What if the Viper Queen did all of this in an elaborate plot to get the astronomer killed so that way Ariadne could access her full power, but she was really with the Viper Queen the whole time? So we know that by killing Sigrid, it caused
Oh my
it
god.
caused for her to for Sabine to like come after.
Yeah, the Viper Queen hates Sabine.
Right.
They don't get
But
along.
what if
This
what
makes
if her goal was
sense.
never really for Sigrid to fully come back, but her goal was just always to somehow get rid of the astronomer so that way she could use Ariadne at her full power? Just saying. Crack theory. But
Damn. That wouldn't surprise me at all because the Viper Queen is so sketchy. I'm like,
it's the way that I thought
she
for a
was
second she might
such
not be
a.
an asshole.
I mean, she has to be the villain of the next book, I'm assuming. She's such a bitch in the last
Yeah,
one.
she's oh god, she's terrible. There was a split
But I'm
second.
also like, I have so many questions about her, and I'm just like, I need to know more about her and Amryn and Fury.
Well, Amryn might be a liar too, so maybe that does have something to do with it. But also just not
Mhm.
getting Fury, we all I know is that we better get an answer to Fury in the last book, because for Fury to literally just be off on a Valen when
Million.
this whole thing was going down, and they've teased so many times about how what a badass she is and how powerful she is, and she just sat this fight out, it kind of makes me be like, what the hell is her deal? It has to be a reason that we haven't found out yet. So what
Yeah.
is it? Does it have to do with Amryn? I mean, Bryce calls her Mini Fury, but sometimes that doesn't matter because Bryce also said that Royce Sand looked like Rune, and that didn't matter at all. I'm definitely interested in finding out about that. But yeah, that would be kind of crazy if the Viper Queen orchestrated that whole thing just so she could get the astronomer gone.
I could see that happening, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at that point, I don't know why she wouldn't
Hmm.
just go out and kill him herself, but maybe she couldn't afford for it to look. She did it. Definitely some questions there. Definitely interested to see about where that's going. And then as far as what else can happen in the next book, I know that this is a big theory that you want to talk about and that, you have touched on. But basically, we know that at the end of the very end of the book, when Bryce goes back to get her parents, she leaves the Star Sword and Truth Teller with Nesta and basically tells her to go find out about the Fallen Dust Court and see kind of where it leads her. So what do you think is going to happen with that? Do you think we'll see that in the next book in ACOTAR 6?
Okay, so I have questions about Akatar 6 because it would make sense if it's more focused about Elaine or Asriel. Because Nesta already really got her own book, but maybe Sarah J. Maas is planning to do multiple books about each sister. That's definitely a possibility because we do know that she wrote a deal for 4 more books. And one of them is Akatar, one of them is Crescent City. We don't know what the other 2 books are. We think one of the books is Throne of Glass. So I mean, Nessa's obviously going to be the next book no matter what. I just don't know if she's going to be like the main
Yeah.
character. But I mean, with Bryce giving Nesta the Truth Teller and the Star Sword because she's like, there's a reason why you had that 8-pointed star on your back. And so did Cassian. Go find out what that means. It really just has to mean that she's going to be the person who brings the literal castle that the prison is back to
Yeah.
life. I don't know what they're going to do with all the creatures and stuff in the prison, but we do know that that used to be a literal castle underground. So I think she's probably going to be the person to awaken the Death's Court, which I really did not see coming. I really thought it was going to be Bryce, but I do like that Bryce was able to awaken a Valen, which is basically their Dust Court,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, of Crescent City. And it does make me kind of question it, since a Valen and the prison island seems to be very connected with each other. It and I do have a question of like, if when Bryce lifted the mist from a Valen, did that somehow also lift the mist from the prison by chance?
Mm,
That's something that we don't know. I'm curious because we do know that it's a spot where it not time traveling, but jumping worlds is the easiest there. So I just have a lot of questions about
Yeah.
it. But I would love it if Nesta awakened the Dusk Court, because then there'd be Pegasuses, and it makes so much sense for the Valkyries. It makes so much sense. It make me so happy for them.
Yeah.
I think that'd be so cute.
Maybe not when Bryce lifted the mist in a Valen that it lifted the mist there, but maybe when she pulled the power from the earth in the actual Dusk Court, it could have done that. It's not like we got to see what was going on
Hmm,
above at that
right.
point. They never really touch on it. She teleports straight back to Midgard after that. So who's to say what the state of that island is right now? And then also I could totally see Nesta just going in there and straight up murking everybody that was in that prison. She killed Lanthus, so who else couldn't she kill? The Asteri is already dead. Even though, okay, I didn't bring this up, but I also need to know, like, okay, this is another reason why I still think it's so possible that the Asteri are not just the Daglin, because what the fuck was Rigelus talking about when he said our trapped brethren in another world? That's the world we want revenge on. He was talking about this one Asteri bitch under the prison. He was talking about Vesperus, this one chick under the prison. I cannot believe that. I still think there has to be that has to be explored further. And also, I could be totally wrong, but it would be crazy if the Asteri aren't even actually dead. They're just floating around in that black void and they're able to come through a word gate or something at some point. I don't know,
Like,
but
I would hate that. Please, please don't let that happen. Can people just stay dead in this book? Dude, if that happens, I would.
just saying. Just saying. Possibilities on the table. They did go
Oh
into a black
gosh.
hole. They did
Okay.
not technically die. It's not like they feed off of regular food and shit. They feed off of, power. I don't know how that works, but it would just be crazy. I think she said
Oh
something about them
god.
needing air, so maybe I'm wrong, but that would be crazy. That would be wild. At this point, nothing would surprise me though. Okay, I know that this would probably not make you happy, but I would love this drama would be if Nesta decides that she's going to go be High Lady of the Dusk Court. She's always said that the Night Court is not her real family, that this is not her court. Now, I know that she had like a little change of heart at the end of Silver Flames, but that doesn't mean that all the shit that she said in the beginning wasn't true. And also the way that Sarah wrote her in the bonus chapters, when Reese is yelling at her, she makes it very obvious that she's not as happy-go-lucky. She's not in the same happy mental place that we kind of saw her at the end of Silver Flames. So it makes me very curious as to what has been going on since then, how Nesta's feeling currently. Is it possible that she would leave that court, go become High Lady of the Dusk Court, and then bring the Valkyrie over with her as like her personal army? And is Cassian going to have to make a choice between his brother and his mate?
Yeah. I think he's definitely gonna have to make a choice. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I mean, either way, I mean, obviously he should choose Nesta.
Mm.
Duh. But
Eh, eh.
but to me,
Yeah.
I mean, they're mated. I don't see why Sarah J. Maas would break them up. They actually have like that snapping into place bond. I don't really know what to think about it. I'm super for it being an island of just like warrior women. That'd be like kind of badass. And what if this is so random? What if she becomes High Lord?
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm king, bitch. That'd be kind of
That would be
iconic. But
crazy the way that Fae are so male and female driven. But yeah, but just
I mean, I will say though, with the way that Crescent City kind of ended with Bryce kind of just demolishing all of the hierarchies and stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if Akatar learns of that and is like, yeah, why do we have these people in charge when like
you think that those men are
I
about to
don't know.
relinquish their power the way Bryce did? That's not about to happen. There will be a
Definitely
there will be a
not.
war before that happens.
Definitely not
Or
Tamlin. Definitely
Baron.
not. Well, Baron, I feel like Baron's gonna fucking die at some point.
Yeah, but I don't even see Eris doing that. I don't see these men relinquishing their powers but Maybe they'll have to, because maybe this whole High King, maybe this is all boiling down to a war between Rhys and Nesta, and that's gonna be Akatar. Who is it gonna be, High Queen or High King? Somebody's got to take
Dude,
over. The cauldron made Nesta.
the fandom, I think, would like explode. Like that would make me kind of
Oh
nervous
my
because like
god.
people are already like pretty ruthless
Yeah.
online. And now it's like, oh, you have to choose. Are you on Rysand's side with all these people, or are you on Nesta's side? And
Well, the only way I see
that would that I don't think that's gonna happen, but that would be
Yeah, the
crazy.
only way I could see that happening is if Reese really did truly hit an evil arc. But yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
crazy. Anyways, crack theory is just coming in. I'm just talking shit at this point. But
We're
I'm
just
literally
talking. We're
just
just
I'm
talking.
literally just, what if this happened?
But back to what you're saying, I do think Cassian's gonna have a lot of like inner dialogue moments
Hmm.
of, okay, am I going to focus on my mate or my High Lord? And I also think Azriel is gonna struggle with that too a little
I
bit.
was just, yeah.
Because they've all been so close for so many fucking centuries, and they're like brothers, so it's they have to make like a decision or be able to at least how Feyre does. She's good at not taking one person's
Yeah.
side every single time. Sometimes she agrees with Rysand, sometimes she agrees with
Hmm.
Nesta and Elaine or whatever. So
Yeah.
they just need to talk to Feyre. Talk to
Yeah, literally
Feyre. Talk
let
to her and
Feyre.
be like, hey, how do you balance this? And I know that obviously Cassian and Azriel have a deeper relationship than Feyre and Nesta
Hmm.
do, but I still think that it would benefit them to at least kind of just have a conversation with everyone. Y'all need to communicate. Communicate with Rysand, communicate with Nesta, communicate with your fucking mates, and just I don't know, just talk.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, we learned from Aelin and unfortunately Bryce in this book. Communication can really just fix a lot of things. Everybody just talk. Let's just talk to each other. Let's just talk and share our feelings and communicate, and everything will be okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so curious to see where all of this is leading. Obviously, a lot of these are not even theories; they're just open-ended questions that we're left with at the end of these books. And so definitely had some fun, questioning where this is going, what we think we'll see in some of the next books, and what we don't know. It will be kind of cool to revisit this at some point and see if after, another book, or after we've done all our rereads and we're looking for different things, we will see different things when we come back and circle these questions again. But okay, so that being said, we did have some listener participation on our Instagram page this week. We wrote to you guys asking just some little polls, some fun polls about the new book and about what you guys are thinking, where your heads are at. And so we just want to go over some of those. And so we just want to go over some of those things now with you guys. So the first poll that we took was, what is your favorite Crescent City book?
Okay. I'm really proud of you
So
guys
proud.
because we agree. I have it right here. We agree. The From our listeners, their favorite Crescent City book is House of Earth and Blood. As it
Period. As it should
should. As
be.
it
As it
should.
should be.
I very much agree with that. It's my favorite Crescent City book by
Oh,
far.
yeah.
I hate saying that, but it is by far my favorite Crescent City book. That book literally to me was like almost perfect.
Yeah.
Like it drew me in so much. I know a lot of people don't like how heavy the world building was, but I fucking loved it. I loved how heavy it was. It was a lot, but I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the characters. The twists were amazing. I loved that it was like kind of introduced a little bit like as a mystery.
Hmm.
It was so good. I
Yeah.
That book was
Without a doubt, Crescent
that's like
City One is it's not just my favorite Crescent City book, it's one of my favorite Sarah J. Maas books, period. I
it's
kind
yeah.
of wish that it had kept that feeling through all three books. I feel it was almost there with book two. But unfortunately, a lot of the questions that got asked just didn't have that ending that I really wanted them to have, because that first book is, like you said, it's almost like the perfect murder mystery book combined with fantasy, combined with just this urban worlds with modern day terms and, things I can relate to with these girls who are closer in age to us that kind of talk and have experienced life the same way that we do. When I tell you, like, the first book, it's just, like I said, not just one of my favorite Crescent Cities, one of my favorite Sarah J. Maas books, period. So you guys chose correctly. Good job.
Yes. No. House of Earth and Blood is my second favorite Sarah J. Maas book. It's so good.
Hmm.
It's like the same feeling that a lot of people have when they first read Court of Mist and Fury. This book that did that for me too. I was like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah, part 4 of that book, just, when I tell you a better ending has never been written. It's just so perfect. Everything, Bryce's iconicism, freaking, just so many messed up things happen from the time that you hit part 4 in that book. You just, like, you don't put it down. You just, like, even on my reread, it's just like I just straight listen through. It's just so good.
I didn't put it down when I got to part 4. I literally read it. I wasn't planning to read part 4 in one sitting, but I did.
Yeah, it's just, it's so good. It's such a good book. It will always live on in my heart. So good job, you guys, on that one. And then the next question that we asked the listeners was, did you like House of Flame and Shadow?
So most listeners did like House of Flame and Shadow, some didn't, but a lot of people also said that they haven't finished or started reading it yet. I definitely want to do that one in maybe a month.
Yeah.
Just so for people can like finish reading it and also kind of digest their opinion on it, because I do know my opinion has changed a little
Hmm.
bit about this book after kind of thinking about it a little bit more, but yeah.
I liked House of Flame and Shadow. I thought it was good. I still, as of right now, am giving it between a 4 and a 4.5. It's definitely the only thing that is stopping me from loving it just as completely as I did Crescent City 1, which I would give a perfect 5 to, is that it just left me with so many more questions than I started with. And that part kind of like it's I know it's not the last book in the series, so I don't want to put that pressure on it, but it definitely is the last book in Bryce's story, and I just kind of do wish that a little bit more of my questions got answered. I don't care about the ACOTAR people not being in it as much. It's not an ACOTAR book, so for me personally, that didn't bother me. I know a lot of people were disappointed by that, but that's not where I'm coming from. It solely has to do with the fact that now that I've had time to sit with it and think about it, it has left me with a lot of questions, and not necessarily the kind of questions I had going into House of Flame and Shadow, which were kind of, oh, what's about to happen? Or, this could mean this, but more questions, well, why did this mean this? Or how did this end up being this? Or why wasn't this important? And so I do still love it. I did still have a great time reading it. I still am rereading it right now and will be rereading it again. Definitely no hate on it. It's just not the excitement that left my body from the original, video that we did just a day or two after we finished it. I definitely have a little bit of a different opinion now, but I would still say I liked it. So
Yeah, I still liked it. I just same to all of it.
yeah,
It didn't conclude a lot of things that I was hoping it would conclude, but ho-
yeah,
hopefully it does at some
yeah. We
point.
still have Akratar 6,
Okay.
and we still have Crescent City 4. So we'll see where it goes.
We'll see. Okay, so the next few questions were really fun. I was really excited about this. So we asked a little bit about who y'all prefer or like your favorite characters. So I put Rune or Hunt, which I'm actually kind of surprised a little bit. But I think it's just because of how this character was in the last book really just made him like kind of go on top. But Rune won.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. Hunt gets a lot of hate online for whatever reason, even though he's my favorite
Really?
guy. Yeah, he's my favorite guy. He has the most red flags. Listen, this is not a dig at Rune, but Hunt never shot Bryce.
So
No, I'm
true.
just
So
I'm
true.
just kidding though, because I do really love Rune too, and I did forgive him for that. But yes, anyways, we all know that Hunt's my favorite. But yes, you Rune people, you you won the poll.
Well, like I said, Rune had such a spotlight in this last book, and he really showed, I think, a little bit more of like who he is. So I think that's kind of, and a lot of people just loved Lydia. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably why. I think if I asked this question a month ago before this book came out, Hunt would have won by like a
Let me
landslide.
tell you though, some of that fan art is helping Rune too, okay? Because some of the fan art that I
Oh
have seen
yeah.
coming out is like, even I'm over here like, do I love Hunt that much? But no, I'm just kidding. I
I
love,
love
I love Hunt,
Rune.
but no, I'm just being funny. I totally understand why everybody loves Rune. Rune is great. I really, other than the two, well, and I think I even said this in some comments on our Instagram, but other than the two major dumb things that he did in this book, which included not letting Lydia mind speak with him in the beginning when they were all being tortured. Like, you are the only person who can communicate with this person without getting caught, and you're blocking her out. Whatever, and then shooting her, which I do understand why he did it fully. Go watch our video where we talk about that. I don't hold it against him, even though he shouldn't have done it. But anyways, other than those two things, I 100% think that Rune had a standout appearance in this book. It made me love him. Even at the end, I was like, oh my God, their bonus chapter, just so much about Rune in this book definitely made me have a sweet spot for him. Overall, number one being how he acted when Lydia and him were being intimate for the first time and he saw some of her trauma come through, and just the way that he responded. I was just like, this man is precious. Protect him at all costs. So yes, yes, definitely understand why Rune won out this time, even if I'm still a Hunt girly.
Okay, so the next one was Lydia or Bryce, and Bryce won, but only by one
Doesn't matter.
vote.
She's still
So
one.
it's pretty much tied.
Nope, 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 nope,
It
nope,
was
nope, nope. Bryce won.
Bryce did win. Bryce did win, but it was close. That one was a lot closer than Hunt and Rune. But I also, obviously, if this was asked a month ago, no one was probably going to vote for Lydia.
Well, yeah.
But again, Lydia had such a good story in this book. So, and I think also her being related to Brandon makes a lot of Throne of Glass girlies be like, woo!
Yeah,
So,
no, I like Lydia too. I really like Lydia. I hope that Lydia and Rune get a lot of screen time in the books going forward. Well, in the next book, I guess. And maybe even in a crossover book if it happens. We know that she's the major tie-in to Throne of Glass right now. So it would be really cool to see them get some more screen time in the future books. I really like their relationship where it ended. They definitely had the cutest bonus chapter by a freaking mile. And yeah, I do like Lydia. She's pretty cool. She definitely won me over in the last book where I had questions about her at the end of the second book. So, and then of course we know
yeah.
Bryce is my favorite leading lady, even though Bryce did some dumb shit in this book and was on my nerves a little bit. So it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I think it's nice that we have different favorite characters, because if me and you had the same favorite characters, this podcast wouldn't really be that exciting, I don't think, because all of my favorite characters are not your favorite characters.
Yeah.
So I obviously chose Rune and Lydia, and then you chose Hunt and Bryce.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it just, everyone's gonna have a different favorite character, and I like
Yeah, but
that.
it's okay. You were all wrong. I'm right, but that's cool. Yeah, it's fun.
Hey, but we do agree that House of Earth and Blood is the best Crescent
Well,
City
there's
book.
no debating that. No, I'm just kidding.
There's
I'm
literally like, I mean, y'all can definitely let us know your
yeah.
opinions on it, but I Earth and Blood just did something to my brain that just went,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just talking shit, y'all. I love all these characters, but we have to have favorites,
Mhm.
and we all know who mine are, and we all know
Of
who Ellie's are.
course.
So,
We are very adamant
yeah.
and obvious of who our favorite characters, our favorite couple is. Like,
Yeah, I think I'm so protective of Bryce and Hunt because they're my favorite characters in the series. Well, at least as a couple. They're not my favorite standalone characters, but well, Bryce is. Well, so is Hunt. I guess I don't know. Let me not get too far into it. Anyways, yeah. But but I do love them as a couple. Pretty much I think they're the healthiest couple in all of the series. Even though now I think I kind of have to add Rune and Lydia to that list cuz for the most part so far I'm seeing pretty healthy. Obviously there's some
uh,
tumultualism there, but whatever.
don't shoot your partner. But yeah, everyone, it's fine. It's a book. Everyone's gonna have, not every couple. No couple is gonna be completely
Right.
perfect, but everyone's gonna have their shit. But yeah, don't Don't shoot your partner, please. Okay, so
Don't do it. Okay, so that was it for the polls. That was a lot of fun. We will probably be doing some more of those on our page going forward. I've been doing some of them on the reels, which has been really fun to see what your guys' thoughts are on all of the different events that have been taking place in House of Flame and Shadow. And then we have some in the stories that are kind of fun to see where your guys' heads are at. And we probably will do some more going into our ACOTAR breakdown. So keep your eye out for those and please participate. It's a lot of fun for us to have these little back and forths. and breaking it down and just seeing where your guys' heads are at. And a lot of times I will say that like you guys commenting and saying different things, it changes my opinion anyways. I love hearing other points of view and seeing other people's thoughts on the stuff because like it's definitely I have an open mind. I'm always willing to hear somebody out and, you know, maybe change my thought process while it's happening.
yeah,
So
no, I feel that because I will say really quick when I was to our last episode, your whole dialogue on Danica and Bryce really actually made me rethink about their bonus chapter. I was like, you know what? I really never thought of it that way. How Danica was really just not a great friend, very manipulative. The way that she got Bryce really drunk to get a tattoo, I was like, damn, that is really true. So my whole opinion about that
like
changed. And I was
shifted.
like, it's fine.
Yeah.
My opinion definitely changed about that. I still love Danica. I don't think she had ill intentions, but the way that she went about Bryce getting a tattoo, it's just
Yeah.
it's a little bit icky, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what's so cool about talking with you about these things. And then, like I said, having the listeners talk to us about their opinions and me hearing your opinion. It's just always like, you're always going to look at it with a different point of view. When I was texting you and we were reading
right.
House of Flame and Shadow, and at first I was so irritated with how Nesta and Asriel were acting towards Bryce in that scene under the prison when they were like attacking her again. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing? And I still kind of like, well, they could have handled that a little bit better, but you definitely made me slow down and be like, okay, but if you were in their position, you would probably be like not as trusting of her or, you know, you'd be questioning it too. So definitely there's just always something to learn from hearing other people's perspectives and other people's thoughts. And that's why, you know, this is such a fun community and we're not judging. We're not, you know, we're open to hearing everybody's points of view. And so even if you don't agree with us, let us know. It's cool. It's fun for us. We might change our opinions. We might not. But either way, that's kind of what we're here for. So, okay. And
Yeah.
then that being said, let's just go over some of our final thoughts. I know we've talked a lot about it throughout this episode, but, and I kind of even mentioned it when we were talking about the poll, but now that we've had time away from it, like I said earlier, I'd probably give it around between a 4 and a 4.5 for me. Definitely, I do think on my first read, I liked it a little bit more than Sky and Breath on my first read, but hands down, first Crescent City is always going to be my favorite. So, and I think,
Yeah. My opinion definitely changed, especially from seeing other people kind of point out like really big plot
yeah,
holes. And I was like, oh fuck, that's really true. So yeah, but it's still the 4-star for me because I don't really rate books based on if there's mistakes or like plot holes like
hmm,
that. I kind of rate them on like if I just enjoyed it.
absolutely, yeah,
I'm a very easy rater. Like, it's hard for me to not give a book a good rating. Like I just kind of go based on how a book made me feel. That's kind of what I do.
yeah,
But so it's still a 4-star for me. But I definitely do see some of the critiques and stuff that the book's getting. And I do agree with them, but I really enjoyed the book my first reread, so that's kind of what I'm going based on.
yeah, absolutely. I think, did any of our opinions change? We kind of talked on a lot of this. Like, you obviously, you said your opinion of that one bonus chapter changed. My opinion on some of the just events of the book. And I still love all the scenes that I said that I loved in the first episode that we talked about it, but definitely some of the bigger questions that I'm left with have changed my opinion a little bit. And I just hope we get some answers to those going forward. And that being said, are you excited about the next release? I mean, it's going to be probably a year and a half to 2 years.
No, I'm not excited. I hate these
No,
books.
literally.
I'm kidding. No, of course I'm
I'm
excited. I'm so
so
excited.
excited.
Gonna it's gonna be a long time before we get a conclusion to any of this, and I'm just hoping that nothing happens.
Yeah.
Okay, if I my death wish, if I'm all of a sudden dying, I'm gonna be like Sarah J. Maas. I have this amount of time to live. Can you please tell me what happens with these people?
Literally, just tell me. Just tell me. You don't have to write it down. Just tell me what happens. I'll take it to my grave.
Seriously, I just really hope that we get a conclusion
No.
at some point in my life.
Yeah, seriously, I haven't felt like this about anything since Marvel up until
Yeah,
Endgame. That's how I felt about Endgame. When I was a little
me
youth
too.
and I was waiting for all the Marvel movies to come out, I was like, please don't let me die before I get to see what ended up being Endgame. And that's how I feel about these books. It's like, please don't let anything happen to me before I get the conclusion of what is going to happen in these books. I need to know.
Yeah. If
I need to know.
if I die, someone needs to resurrect me like how everyone else is in this fucking book because I need
I got you. I'll throw on my Hypaxia
just
cosplay and I'll
please.
bring you back
Okay,
to
thank you.
life.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, guys. Well, this was a kind of crazy, chaotic episode. We're definitely excited to get into our next discussion about ACOTAR, but we do hope that you enjoyed our discussion today about House of Flame and Shadows, even if it was kind of crazy. In our next episode, we will be beginning our dive into ACOTAR, the first book. We are going to split it up into two parts. There will be the first half of the book, kind of up until the point where she actually goes away from the spring court. And then the second half of the book will be the following week after that. If you feel like there's anything that you'd like us to touch on in that episode, please feel free to email or DM us on Instagram. We are definitely open to hearing y'all's thoughts and encourage you to do so. We do want to let you guys know that we will be launching a Patreon soon and a Discord to go along with that. So keep your eyes out for that. It may be a little bit of time, but it is coming. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on one of our podcast platforms, please rate and review this episode. Share us with your bookish friends. Make sure to give us a follow over on Instagram, TikTok. We are really active over there. We have a lot of fun. Like I said, we've been doing different polls and different interactive stuff. We've got some really funny reels over there. So we definitely encourage you guys to check that out and come be a part of our community there. I do want to take a second to just say that we are growing pretty quickly. We have had a lot of followers and a lot of support in just this, little over a month that we've been doing this. And I just want to say that we're so thankful for all of you guys for listening, for liking, for doing any of the things, for commenting and letting us know your thoughts. Like I said, some of the most fun I've had is like just hearing everybody's opinions on House of Flame and Shadow and getting to talk with you guys about that and respond to that. So just thank you so much. You guys have been so incredibly supportive and amazing, and we just can't tell you how much we appreciate it. We can't wait to see where this community goes just based off of, where we're at now. Like, we really just started this thing kind of like we've always wanted to do something together. And when we both had this love of these books and can't shut up about it, we were like, we should just do a podcast. But I really didn't think that it would, just become what it has already. And like I said, I'm just so thankful and so excited to see where we go from here. And as always, we want to leave you guys with a quote today where we'll say, we don't let them decide who we get to be. We'll carve our own paths. All right, guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye.
Okay, bye.